Alrighty, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, and welcome to SkullQuest 2, the Vortex. So this is a game that was released in 1994, I think, by a single person, so it's basically a really old indie game. I had never heard of this game before until we played it during a blind race where we were trying to progress as far as possible. To be completely honest, this game is not well suited for a blind race, but it turns out this is one of these games that I just think is really fascinating. I didn't find any walkthrough data or information about this game online anywhere, and I've seen like one very short gameplay video and a few screenshots here and there, but that's about it. And I was just really fascinated because as simple as the game is and as old as it is, it's actually decently competent overall. It's not amazing, but it's pretty good. So let's get into it. It does have a bit of a story to it, and the short version is that in SkullQuest 1 you had something to do with the science sarcophagus, and that you solved, and in SkullQuest 2 a vortex is opening and a beast is trying to emerge into your world. And yeah, this is the developer at Toton III apparently, and the website actually has this game online available for download, even has the cheats available if you want to play with cheats. I actually haven't even tried those, and it is on the website NecroBones.com if you want the official website. Alternatively, you can just go for other things. So, because I was so intrigued by this game, I decided to just map it out because I didn't find it anywhere else. So let's just play the game. The gameplay is pretty straightforward. Let me explain real quick. If you press the S button, you can save the game. If you press the R button, you can restore the game. So far, so simple. You have two jump options. If you press the up arrow, you do a little jump, and if you press the enter button, you do a high jump. Now the high jump actually takes away a little bit of your health if you just land on flat ground, because there is fall damage in this game and it ramps up decently quickly. You do recover health super slowly, but yeah. Then again, for the most part, health is not that big of an issue, as is navigating the complex. So we have a friend here, and this guy basically kind of instructs us on what we're supposed to do. Also, these traps, they deal a lot of damage. You have other buttons that you can press, and if you press P, it cycles through the portraits. Probably doesn't do anything, but I think it's kind of interesting to note. If you press D, you die, but it literally just brings you back to the title screen. There's not much of a point on using that button. And well, if we tell him that we would like to know what to do, he just tells us that we need to stop the time beast. I have to admit I'm not terribly invested in the plot in any capacity, but well, if you'd like to read, why not? So this is presumably the science sarcophagus, and you might notice that we are kind of in a little room here. Now, the beginning is on the map, I hope you can see this reasonably well, is down here in this room here. On the right side is the map here. And let me give you a brief overview on how I structured the map. The map is basically just tile-based, but the tiles are pretty large. The green stuff here is illusory walls where you can just walk through. Blue are the blue kind of traps or spikes, and the red ones are fire spirits, fire elementals, or fire traps on the ground. The light green stuff is literally just grass tiles. Originally I thought these might have some significance, but it's literally just decoration, and at this point in the map they are going to be, well, just convenient markers, let's put it this way. So we can just walk through this wall here. We also do have an attack, bones. And you can have up to 3 bones active at any given point, and if you shoot them all away, well, they need to come to a perfect standstill before you can use them again, which means sometimes if you throw them really far down a pit, you can't use them again until the others somewhere down there get to a standstill. Also, if you think you can shoot through illusory walls, they act for the purpose of bones like irregular walls, which means you cannot shoot through them. So you can't detect them this way, unfortunately. But your skeleton body is, as a matter of fact, visible in front of the illusory walls, which is also how I detected some of them. But I didn't detect all of them. In fact, I got decently far in the game, but I never actually beat it, so to speak, without, let's say, cheating a little bit. I'll get to what I mean with this. So here we have a fire elemental. These ones you can destroy, and, well, that's just how it is. So let's just kind of go to the left. One of our first tasks is to be able to, well, get somewhere without dying, preferably. And this is kind of where you might notice the movement is a little bit strange. And the reason for this is, this game actually uses a text parser for the movement. What I mean with this is, if you press right, you just start infinitely walking to the right until you stop with the down button. If you press left, infinitely left, etc. So basically, if I just release the button, I will just continue walking, which makes trying to stop in a specific place kind of tricky, in fact. You do, however, get to a perfect standstill as soon as you get to places. But also, if you fall too far, and you fall too far pretty quickly, you will instantly die. So if you are playing this just casually, I do recommend just frequently saving, because there's no penalty to saving and reloading, so there's that. Also, I keep forgetting about that one. And yeah. Here we have basically the first little obstacle course, and you can hold down the button in order to try and move quickly. By the way, what I mean with text parser is, you know how if you, let's say, write something, you should be able to see this over here, right? Hang on. If you just write something, every button press will immediately, like, put down a letter. But if you just hold down a button, you basically have that initial letter just printed, and then there's a brief pause of about half a second or a second, and then it starts just printing a lot of the letters. This is what I mean with a text parser, which means if you were to try and do traditional movement, you would actually get into the awkward part where, for one part, because it's text parser, you can only hold down one button at a time, so you literally can't hold down multiple buttons, and if you just hold a direction, it's not gonna do anything until like half a second later. It makes the platforming a little bit awkward, but I dare to say this is literally as good as it gets for the purposes of a text parser controlling your game. Also, if you try to jump through here, if you hit a wall at any point, you just stop. Even if you hold against the wall with the arrow, so to speak, like your arrow controls, you might be surprised that you just don't go anywhere. You have to specifically tap the button in order to start your horizontal movement again. I'm too lazy to kill that guy, so let's just keep going for now. So you do have NPCs, and the basic idea of the game is you need to collect the variety of items and parts in order to construct the device that will seal the vortex. And for this, you effectively find various NPCs around the world, and they will tell you that, hey, we trade something for something, or I just give you an item. As long as you basically have or choose the correct text option. Also, here is a randomly teleporting wizard. He doesn't ever say anything, he just is there, I suppose. He is actually important for one of the trading missions for completing the game. There are a few items that are completely inconsequential that you, however, can pick up. So there's that. Also, we are at this point over here, near this little flame thing, as you can see, and the NPC just earlier, the skeleton, actually did warn us that there are, in fact, traps. And this is the traditional old-timey way of traps. You just die. So hope you saved frequently. And that's kind of most of what there is to this. Now, one thing I think is rather interesting, this is a required jump right here. You have to jump super late in order to be able to make this, in order to get across here. And this thing here is, well, an illusory floor, and you just fall straight through. So trying to make this cross here is actually quite tricky. But it is required. If you were to play a game nowadays, chances are you would just assume, oh, I'm probably not supposed to go there yet. But no, it's actually required. Alright, and we just platform our way over here. Get hit by the fire way too much, so I'm just gonna reset real quick. You know what, I could just probably walk through and take less damage. Yeah, that's fine. So let's just destroy the fire. Pretty much any enemy you can defeat takes a lot of hits, so largely they're not necessarily worth fighting. So, in my little map here, I actually have, as a matter of fact, put all the NPCs on a little thing, and I also have added a little description to them. So this here is Gertrude, again, which we actually literally met just a little bit further to the left. Gertrude is a wizard, or of some description, and tells you that you need to find the pieces in order to assemble the anti-vortex machine thingy, or something like that. And also, if we ask on how we can get to places, we actually acquire a ring. So this is pretty much integral to be able to go anywhere in this game. Now this ring here gives us the ability to fly or levitate. If I press the F button, you see the little skeleton do the little wing animation, which I think is actually kind of weirdly adorable, I guess. But also, you levitate, and the way you levitate is basically you can press the F button and then you press up and you go up. So you just kind of keep your vertical momentum that you currently have with this levitation. It takes a little bit getting used to, but it also is, well, it's not bad once you get used to it. It is definitely not the most intuitive mechanic. So next, I'm just going to make my way all the way into the top left, because that is going to be a required NPC for us to talk to in order to be able to beat the game. Also, in order to not take fall damage, I'm just going to frequently be levitating in places. So occasionally you find these dragonfly things. They don't deal a whole lot of damage, but they take a lot of hits to defeat. Generally speaking, you don't have to defeat these ones here. They're just not necessary to be defeated, so I just ignore them. Alright, and we just kind of make our way up here. Oops, not quite there. Oh yeah, jumping over here is kind of tricky actually. So I guess I'm just gonna go up here, that makes it easier. Alrighty, so here we have this guy. This is Scarro, and he just says, oh, a visitor. We can ask him what he is doing. He's just looking in the cracks and roaches because he's really bored, and we tell him, well, I guess you're a bit depressed. Of course he is. And he has a wand, and of course he just gives us the wand, which is something that we can trade for with the randomly teleporting wizard. So we just need to find that or see that wizard again in order to be able to trade the wand for something else. Hi. That was not planned. I have your wand. So basically, the way this game works is very simplistic. If you have the item that can interact with the NPC, occasionally you get a message indicating that, hey, I have your wand. The wizard goes, snatches the wand, gives a multichromatic manipulator, and he wastes the wand. Poof, he's gone. Bye. So the wizard is not terribly talkative, which is fine, I guess. The multichromatic manipulator is one of the 3 parts of the device that we need. And let me just kind of demonstrate what I mean with the game is very simplistic. We can just ask this guy the same questions again, and he's just going to give us another wand. So the short version is, as long as we don't have the item that an NPC gives us, they can give the item to us again. They always have the exact same dialogue, even if you, let's say, help a poor guy out of his predicament, which we get to a little bit later. He just literally repeats the dialogue right after, as soon as you just get through the thing. So it's basically just imagine this is fine. You do not need the wand anymore at this point. We could give the wizard another wand, and he technically would give us another multichromatic manipulator, but it doesn't do anything. So yeah, and I'm just kind of making my way over here, back to where we were. So we just kind of made our way all the way over here. I hope you can see my mouse, right? Kind of. It's a bit difficult to see. But we made our way all the way to the northwest of the map, and then I'm just walking my way back here to this NPC, who is right there. So this is Morville. Morville basically tells us a variety of things, and this is kind of where an item that you can acquire that is part of the solution, but not necessarily required. I'll get to that. And if we talk him about a cat of meowing, basically the cat just kind of pukes up or spits out some gems. I think a lot of these NPCs are references to other characters from either other games, previous games, or stuff like that. Let me put it this way. I think this game here is actually rather decently accomplished for a single person developing games for, well, by themselves in 1994. So I actually really like it. Sure, it's a bit awkward and a little bit weird or rough around the edges, but I think it's pretty competent in what it's trying to achieve, especially for an exploration-based game. It has one really mean thing that I'll get to, well, towards the end, but we'll see. Now, we now have a branching path here. This is where we are right now, in this area here. We can either go towards the top, which leads us to the rest of the world, or we can go to the bottom in order to talk to some other NPCs. Down here there are 2 NPCs, so let's just go down over there and go to the NPCs. So with these gemstones, what I mean with they may or may not be required is there is actually 2 ways of getting one of the trading sequence items in certain parts. Also, here's the wizard again. I'm just trying to avoid him because it's just always the same dialogue. Also, we can just give him the wand again. There's no point in having more all the items again, although technically, if you are really accomplished, you can have all the items in your inventory in the end, if you really want to. Did I go the wrong way? I did go the wrong way. Welcome to you, Vilokar. Welcome to you as well, Yume. And hello everybody, I hope you're doing well. So, this is Frank. He just tells you about a variety of things, and I have to admit, I don't understand it. But that's quite alright. Now, my goal is to get up to Hans and Franz, which means I have to go up through this little gap here. And the easiest way I found to do this is just go straight up and just float until we are here. Then we go through this little corridor right here somewhere. Did I make a mistake? Uh-oh, I think I lost track of where I was. Oh, I need to go to the right side first. Or bottom to the right side, that's why it is. Worth noting that when I originally mapped out this game, I did make a few mistakes. And I did in fact figure out how to read the map data file of the game. It is not encrypted in any capacity, so I didn't have to do anything particularly difficult in order to read how the map actually functions. But I ended up doing that because I just could not figure out how to get that last item. Like, I actually did figure out a number of things, including some illusory walls that were rather tricky to find, which I'm reasonably proud of, but all of these illusory walls were, well, not there. But just kind of to give you a frame of reference, this here is effectively a parsed map file where the 1s are walls, the 0s are empty spaces, and the 7s are walk-throughable walls. And I actually did, in fact, in the end, just kind of fix my map because it has some inaccuracies here and there along the way, so it should be accurate now, I think, because I'm not good at counting, so there's that. Either way, we are now up here, if I'm not mistaken, so just to the right a little bit. We should be able to meet Hans and Franz, which is quite a bit out of the way. So this guy has 2 heads. And how are you doing? And basically, Hans and Franz have a dagger. We can trade the gems that we just got from the cat for the dagger, which we can then subsequently trade for other stuff if we want to. Now this is more or less entirely optional if you know the other way of acquiring a certain item. But for now, let's just visit all of the NPCs that have something of note or interest to say. Also, in case you're curious, I don't know the map by heart. I've literally just played through the game twice, and that was about it. Here's a friend that just kind of talks some nonsense. But one thing that helped me actually a lot trying to play through this game is just literally making the map. It actually made it even more curious to, I wonder why there's some empty spaces over there, I wonder whether I can get there, and in some cases the answer was yes, in other cases it was like, well, I guess that's the edge of the map, you can't go over there anyways. And you know what, that's quite okay. And we are back at the intersection here, where we can now go up to the right in order to go to the rest of the game. Give me a second. Alrighty. I see. Welcome to Bambulus. And thank you. I'm glad you liked the run. So, by the way, there's these floating ghost thingies around. They don't do anything from what I can tell. Like, literally just nothing. So, thanks to having the flotation device, I'm just gonna float over this entire room. There's basically nothing of note in here. It's just get to the end of the room with your life intact is the main goal of this. Also, if I just bump into the wall, I will run to the side of the trap and it's not gonna hit me, which is kind of convenient. You can also just barely float above it and that works as well. Alrighty, let me scroll the map over further to the right so you can see the rest of the right hand side here. So, we are about to, well, get to Ted. Ted is trying to do a record of holding his head over his body for as long as possible, but considering that he just figured out that he can do this basically infinitely, he does not need the hourglass anymore in order to keep track of time, so he just gives us the hourglass. I don't know, it's kind of fun. So this hourglass, from what I can tell, is completely optional. You do not need it in any capacity. You can trade it for another item, which we'll get to in just a second. So, another thing to note, oh, there's an annoying dragonfly right here. Over here, just to the left, is our friend that gave us a dagger for the gems. And this guy here actually wants the dagger, so on a physical concept, those two NPCs are really close together, but to my knowledge there is no way to quickly get from one to the other. So yeah, so this guy here just would like to have a dagger, and he gives us a key. That key can, as you would expect, be traded for something else as well. That seems like a big map. It's a big map if you don't know where you're going, or how to explore, or how to proceed. So, yeah. Okay, and yes, I managed to finish this game. Now, we are in this large vertical room here. There's a little bit of section to the top right, but from what I can tell, there's no value in going up there. So we're just entering through this here. And our goal is to just get to the bottom. So that's pretty much exactly what I'm gonna do. So, as long as I don't fall too quickly, the levitation ring is going to prevent the fall damage, because from what I can tell, the damage you take is effectively tied to the speed at which you fall. Also, by the way, there's some illusory walls right here. I have absolutely no idea as to why they are there, because you can literally fly the entire section back up with the levitation ring if you want to. So it's not like that would make it easier to go through there. So this is Leafy Green, kind of an alien-looking creature. We're gonna actually come back to it in just a moment. But before that, let's go down here. So we're at the bottom of this section now. And just keep going over to the left. And over here, in just a little hole here, if you will, there is the mushroom, who is going to give us a mushroom. As a thank you for us listening to the mushroom guy, who is talking endlessly and we are just trying to get away and he misunderstands us. But he's thankful anyways for somebody to talk to for a while, even though he wanted years. And we got a mushroom. So this mushroom here, we can trade for this guy for an apple. He asks us what we are doing here, and we are trying to tell him we're here to stop a null beast. And we can give him a mushroom, he gives us an apple. So this is in fact the other way, the much easier way of getting an apple. Effectively, the goal here is to get an apple. We will be able to trade the key for an apple as well. But there's no point in having more than one apple, or one or the other, from what I can tell, in order to beat the game. So you literally just need one or the other, but not both. But at the same time, I figured I might as well just kind of showcase the alternative trade sequence. Here we just go up. Kind of weird on how decently good I get at this platform here. So now, we are at the top of a very, very long shaft right here. And initially when I was playing /racing the game, I didn't actually necessarily think that it was intended for me to survive going all the way to the bottom, because this area here kind of gave me the impression that the levitation ring is not supposed to last this long, or maybe it was changed. Either way, this is in fact the way to go. You want to survive down here. Also, if you're not prepared, this is an illusory block, you fall, and this is an illusory block, you fall. Also, there's a body over here in a cage. This is Humbles, and he just says, he's hanging around. Nothing to do and hanging around. And, oh look, another hallucination hovering outside my cage trying to talk to me. Maybe if I ignore it, it'll go away. Poor guy. There's also spikes here just on the other side of this place, which you don't have to go anyways. Now, let's go down. This is a pretty long fall. What's the painting looking thing in the lower right? This is the portrait space for NPCs. If you press the P button, you can cycle through them. I think this is an accidental leftover from probably development. Alrighty, so there's actually an illusory wall that I did, as a matter of fact, find when I was just playing through the game. Did I miss it? I was actually just not high enough. And the wall I found was right here. Hang on. I missed it again. It's kind of tricky to get because it's exactly one tile. And it's right here. There we go. And from what I can tell, there's absolutely no purpose or reason to go here. It's just space. Might have been planned for something at some point, but maybe it was deemed to be too mean. And on the exact opposite side of this, there's another equivalent chamber. Again, I don't think there's a point to this. And I did find this during my exploration, trying to figure out how to beat the game. But yeah, there's just no reason to go there from what I can tell. Alrighty, so we are now at the very bottom of the map, all the way here. And let's just go and visit these 3 NPCs over here as well. Because why not? This appears to be some form of a prison or cage. Then again, the entire thing is supposed to be a catacomb. Not entirely sure what they were thinking with how they built it, but I don't think they were thinking much. So originally I thought this guy was going to be important because he has a box and he asks us, are we interested in what is in the box? Whether we tell him yes or no, he has the same answer. He's not going to tell us. And from what I can tell, there's no way to ask or see what's in the box. Over here we have Bishop, which is a witch. Oh my goodness, brain. And we can give her an hourglass in exchange for a torch. The torch, to my knowledge, doesn't do anything. At all. Like, it's literally just... doesn't do anything. It's just there. I guess for completionists or something. Either way, let's go over here. And hey, here's a will-o-wisp. It is really, really loud. And from what I can tell, it doesn't do anything. It just tells us that, hey, can you help me? And the will-o-wisp goes, no, I'm not supposed to interfere with material matters. And yeah. Okay, this here is the first illusory wall that I'm gonna point out that I did not find during my exploration. I only found it after figuring out how to read the actual map file of the game. But also there's nothing over there at all, so there's that as well. So yeah, the wisp is really, really loud, and as a matter of fact, this guy up here is going to complain about how loud the wisp is and what kind of noise it makes. So that's that. And that guy doesn't really do anything for us in any capacity. He's just kind of there complaining about the noise, which is very, very understandable because that thing is really, really loud. Also, the random earthquakes are attributed to the Vortex beast, which is about to invade our space or something like that. So there's that as well. Alrighty, now we just go all the way to the left. By the way, if you press T, you can activate a turbo. I don't know whether that's part of the original game or part of the, like, DOSBox simulation type of deal. But it's an option. It's probably part of the original, since a lot of the DOS era games had like a turbo button, which you could press or unpress in order to make games run at the appropriate speed. So chances are that this is an intended feature. Alrighty, here we have this guy here. This is Karen. And Karen has shackles around their legs. So I have a key, and we can trade this key for an apple. And if you talk to Karen again, Karen is immediately in the same predicament and would like to have a key for shackles again. So this is the other way of getting an apple. So basically we have two ways of getting an apple. One of the trade sequences is we get gems from a cat, coughing them up, then trade those gems for a dagger, then trade that dagger for a key, and then we trade that key for an apple. Alternatively, we can just go to the mushroom buddy, get an apple from there, and then give it to the leafy green guy. Wait, no, mushroom buddy gives us a mushroom, and then we trade it for an apple on the leafy green guy. And that's way simpler overall, also much quicker, if you want to go for speed for some reason. And, well, now we are at the bottom here. This is, by the way, where I originally, in my casual mapping exploration, encountered the weird wisp creature the first time, which I think it actually spawns in the bottom right section of the map, but it just wandered all the way over here, because this guy is the guy complaining about the noise. But everything that is just persistently walking and running around the area, it just kind of continuously does so it regardless of whether it's on screen or not. Alrighty, now we are at the bottom section here. All we need to do is just get to the left. There is an NPC there. The NPC is rather inconsequential. Well, I might still talk to him, I guess. And we just kind of keep going here. There he is. So this is Skarnoth. And he's basically complaining that he is too fat and is trying to lose 20 pounds in order to, well, participate in the jousting tournament. We can tell him whatever we want in order to tell him that he's either dead, or that the jousting tournaments are no more, or that you're not gonna lose 20 pounds because you're literally a skeleton. He is not gonna listen, and yeah. I guess being a skeleton is rather difficult. Alrighty, now, here, this is actually something I did find in my casual playthrough. So if you would like to take a look at this entire area here on the right side, past this red thingy, or past that wisp, I'm not sure what you want to call it. This entire right side here is just a gigantic convoluted maze that is pretty easy to get lost in and has exactly one correct path in order to snake your way all the way through this mess and emerge on this side over here, which, if you know there's an illusory wall right here, you can actually shortcut this significantly. There is still an NPC that I need to talk to at the beginning here, and the only indication from what I can tell that there is an illusory wall right here is the same indication as for other things where you could find other illusory walls, is I found this wall here from the left side, because I was kind of curious that, when I was mapping out this entire thing, I noticed there was basically a space here where there was just seemingly nothing, and from my experience after finding this illusory wall place in the big drop-down tunnel, I thought, well, there's usually some way to get to these spaces if they are, like, available. So I tried to go into this wall and it worked. If I were paying close attention at the time, I would have noticed that my little sprite of the skeleton very briefly like appears in front of the block, because that's how it works for illusory walls. That's how you can detect them on the right side. Good luck detecting them on the left side without just randomly bonking into all the blocks though. Alrighty, before we go over here, we do have to go to the right side first. Also, we can just float over this thing without getting hit, or we can just destroy it. It's inconsequential, from what I can tell. So over here, at the beginning of this gigantic maze, we find this guy. This is Ned. He is really, really hungry, and I have an apple. So we give him the apple, and he gives us some coins. Thank you very much. So these coins are actually very important in order to complete the game, and we're actually going to continue just a little bit further. There is, from what I can tell, an optional NPC just right over here. Let me see real quick. I think we just go all the way to the right. Yeah. Over here. Keep going up until we see the fire thing. Then we go up here. And there you are. So this is Kerry. I hate this flag. Take it and go. That's the entire conversation, and from what I can tell, the flag is completely optional to keep. So I'm not gonna go through the entire maze here. I'm just gonna backtrack and take the shortcuts that I found. But you could either just keep going until you find your way out of this entire maze, or if you know about the illusory wall, you can just, well, go through that instead, which is what I'm gonna do in this case. And yes, I actually love the levitation animation. I think it's really adorable as well. Also, it's not much of a music, it's just like ambient humming, and this is actually part of the reason why I was so intrigued by this game here, to be completely frank with you. It just really... it was like, you know, archeological excavation, but in video game form, if you will, to me. Where it's this old game that I haven't found any map from, any playthrough, anything at all online, and I was just really intrigued. Alrighty, so now we're actually gonna go up here. So normally you would just kind of continue down to this bottom, but at the end of our entire maze section here that I effectively skipped now, there is in fact an important NPC that we need to talk to. There's also Tom. We might talk to Tom too, because why not? So, we're just going to make our way up here, and from what I can tell there's like 3 enemies around here. Also, in case you didn't notice, these blocks up here are completely illusory. All of these 4 that you seemingly can stand on, you cannot stand on. Also, don't forget about the spike traps, they're kind of mean and really easy to die to. But yeah, there's a bunch of these dragonflies, I think they were called in the ending. Oh my goodness. Don't want to take that much damage. Your health isn't that terribly important if you're just patient, but I'm not that patient. So we can just float over all these traps, and here we have Morbius. And I would like to buy a skull. That's all he buys. You can actually try to buy or sell and buy the skull back and forth if you want to. So you can actually sell the skull as well again. There's no point in selling it again, you just get your coins back, and to my knowledge there's nothing else you can use the coins for. Which, by the way, worth noting, when I say to my knowledge, I literally mean it. The only thing I looked at in the games file and could actually find anything at all was the map. So there might be some hidden potential for these things for all I know. Just don't know. And so here we have Tom. Tom wishes he had arms. Can I lend him mine? No. And he calls me selfish for wanting to keep my arms. Which I suppose isn't technically wrong, but it's also kind of wrong. So yeah. Either way, we need that skull in order to acquire one of the important pieces. So effectively, we now traded some gems from a cat that coughed them up into a dagger, into a key, into an apple, into money, into a skull, into, well, whatever we're gonna get next, so to speak. Or alternatively, we get a mushroom, trade it for an apple, for money, for the skull, and then we trade it right here. Because this is Biff, who is trying to find his friend. He has no idea where he is, but we have his skull. So we give him his skull, and what a horrible fate it has been, but we're all skeletons anyways, whatever. And he gives us a weird little item there. I forget what it's exactly called. I think that's the one thing that isn't mentioned by name when you get it in the trade sequence, but it's one of the 3 pieces that you need in order to complete the game. So, and here, this is the one place I didn't find. This is why I opened up the skull2.map file in order to be able to figure out where I needed to go, because I just had no idea. I think eventually I would have figured it out based on there being nothing in my original map down here, where, or this was one of the few places where there was something, or could have been something, let's put it this way. But through here, this is probably the most elusive piece of the puzzle. So over here we have 3 things. One is a fire elemental that we can defeat if we want to. We have the Grim Reaper. Go away, I'm busy reviewing my technical editing. Which, that's kind of it. And here we have Lord Ed T. Toton III. And this is effectively a self-insert by the developer of this game, which is actually, well, kind of neat, I suppose. And we tell him that there's a bug in his program, and he is gonna check. Well, you're right, a bug in my game. I never created the ethereal ectoplasmic ectothermoid. It's unthinkable, it's terrible, it's horrible, it's absolutely awful. What am I to do? I can't just let the game end this way. What can I do? I don't know. I know. Why don't I just make it? Click, tap, bang, boom. And he literally just creates the thing that we needed in order to complete the game. Kind of meta, but I appreciate it. And it's also kind of fun to think about it, because one of the hints that you can get from, I think Gertrude it was, in order to figure out what you need to do, was Gertrude can tell you that you need to get something that doesn't exist, and basically it has hints for the other items as well. But one of the hints is that you need to get something that doesn't exist. And it didn't exist until the developer literally just created it. So I think that's kind of fun. And here we have Gertrude again for the third time. And she just go, do you have all the pieces? And she kind of is going to assemble all the pieces into our final item in the top left of our item box. And we're going to just keep going here. At this point, we're just all the way in the final section here. And let's put it this way. If you're here when messing still some of the earlier end items, then backtracking is a long way, and I went back and forth through this map about 4 times until I decided to try and look for like guides, walkthroughs, hints online, and eventually decided to just try and look at the map file because I could not figure out what to do at that point. I got literally every item in the entire game. In fact, I got every item in the game in the box, because as mentioned before, you can go back to NPCs in order to get their items again. So I went to I went to the cat in order to get the gems to trade for the dagger. Then I traded the dagger in for the key. Then I went back to the cat to get the gems to trade for the dagger again. Then I went back to the cat to get the gems again. So I had every single item except that one item that I was missing through the wall just down there. Alrighty, and we are about to be in the final section of the game. Also, these are walls or floors that can just break, so you can just stick to the ceiling. Also, this is kind of unusual. There's a trap here on top of an illusory block, so that's curious. Also, this guy here is Todd. And Todd wants to get killed already. Probably the predicament of being a skeleton, because, you know, if you don't want to live forever but you're still alive somehow, then that could be an issue. So there is an entire area up here. From what I can tell, it is completely inconsequential. As well as... oh, actually I forgot to point out one illusory random block, like just below here in the corner. That's one of the 4 blocks effectively that I didn't find by myself, but actually looked up through the map file. And this one is another one. So effectively, this is inconsequential. I knew that you could go straight up, but I didn't realize that you were there. I did also realize that you can go to the left side here. Alrighty, and we are in fact just in front of the Vortex. So, in order to clear the Vortex, we have to defeat these weird things. So, and the best way I figured out how to defeat these things is by literally just standing in them in order to be able to defeat them. So the thing is, this is the Vortex we want to close, but we can't close the Vortex until the beast, whatever it's called, rears its head. And it doesn't rear its head until we defeat all the little creatures in here. I actually don't know whether you have to defeat the flames in this room, or whether it's sufficient to just kill the green dudes. Needless to say, this might actually take a while until they cooperate, because their movement, from what I can tell, is entirely random. So I'm just trying to shoot them. Thankfully, health is largely not much of a concern, so just kind of tanking damage in order to get through there is reasonably simple. You can technically stand still in mid-air, but it's also really difficult to time that right, as I just kind of randomly get it, apparently. So, as mentioned before, by the way, the bones have to come to a complete standstill in order to be able to throw them again. Alright, I need this guy to cooperate a little bit better than this. Going straight down would be optimal. This is a guy too. Oh, by the way, one thing, you can crash the game if you die inside an illusory wall, because when you die, your bones explode into all directions, but the game can't animate this because it's inside the wall and it just crashes. So don't do that. Alright, and with this, we have defeated all the green things in here, and there's this weird thing. This is the null beast that we are so afraid of. It bounces back the bones in some interesting trajectories, and if we touch it, we do take a lot of damage. So either you need enough health in order to survive going through the beast, because your goal is actually to touch the portal in order to defeat the thing, or you just go behind it and destroy the portal this way. And you need the item in your inventory in order to be able to accomplish this. And after you defeat the portal, you see Gertrude here one more time. And she tells you, good job. Farewell, and that's the game. This is supposedly the null beast and some fancy DOS graphics. The ethereal vortex has been sealed, and the null beast has been stopped once again. But is it enough? There are many more where it came from, and far worse lies beyond the boundaries between this and other realities. Only time will tell where your adventures will take you. That is another story. Alrighty, that was Skull Quest II, The Vortex. Which, once again, to me, was just kind of a fascinating look into an old game that I couldn't really find any resources from. It definitely felt a bit like I was just exploring something that is long forgotten, aka archaeology, which I don't know about you, but to me that was just kind of weirdly appealing. I actually really liked that. But yeah, I couldn't technically beat the game by myself. I ended up looking up the skull map file in order to determine where the things are, but it was pretty easy to read, so most people could have reasonably easily done that. And there's that. The game was originally shareware, which means you needed some form of code or knowledge on how to unlock the full game at the time, which that knowledge you would normally get after paying the developer, and they would just kind of send you the information how. It's basically a demo version, but as long as you know how to unlock the full game, you could just play the full game at the time. That was shareware. And the reason why they did this way, of course, is because in the era before internet and widespread, easy, like digital distribution, it was kind of difficult or expensive to send you the full game after just sending you or letting you play a demo. That is why shareware was pretty widespread as a concept at the time. And, well, from what I can tell, this is pretty much the complete game. So, yeah, I thought this was rather fascinating, and I felt like it would be kind of interesting to maybe share my experience with you, everybody. The map you can find on the Google Sheet, which, while I was mapping it actually on stream the other day, I kind of forgot to make the Google Sheet public, so I literally just had a link to something that you couldn't even look at. Whoops. But also, as mentioned before, this game is really fascinating to me, and I feel like this is kind of as good as you can make a platforming exploration game with a text parser input. Just kind of on the mechanical side of things, but it is a bit clunky. Still, kind of fun. And after you beat the game, the one thing that actually happens is you can watch the ending, again if you go to the title screen here. There is a method in order to unlock cheats. I think you have to create like a certain file, but I actually didn't exactly look into that. But you could just technically warp to your mouse cursor if you wanted to and stuff like that. I haven't tested it because I'm okay with this for now. So, well, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening and for lurking. This was my presentation of the archeological find of SkullQuest II. And I hope you enjoyed it.